Okay, we're on remote doing a mobile diagnostic here. We've got an '08 Chevy Silverado 2500. It's gas, and it's a no crank condition. Before I got the scanner hooked up, but I haven't ID'd the vehicle yet. First thing I notice, no check engine light. Service airbag. Hood open, that's because the hood is open. Tire pressure, and of course there's a no crank condition. So we're going to throw the scanner on it and see if we have communication with the ECM, because the light bulb might be burnt out. So I got the key on. We're going to attempt to scan this thing. I'm probably not going to be able to, but we'll see what computers will talk. Chevy, and it's an '08. Let's try automatically IDing it. Now if it doesn't communicate with the ECM, it won't pull the VIN and it won't be able to automatically ID. So we'll have to manually enter it. We should have done it by now. Okay, so I'm going to manually enter the VIN. So I had to manually enter the VIN and the mileage. This is a company truck. So we're going to try a code scan and a pre-scan. Lost communication with end control module. The first one that should have came up was the ECM, and it didn't communicate. Anti-lock brakes, lost communication with ECM, airbag sensor, let's see how many controllers it talked to. Should be about 12. It's 9, 10 so far. Oh, 13. Oh yeah, this is an '08. It's got door modules. Okay, so we got 14 controllers, but we have no communication with the ECM. So let's go back and try IDing the ECM. Display codes. No communication. So the first thing we're going to do is check the fuses that supply power to the ECM. Well, I think this is going to be a pretty short diagnostic. If you do not put this cover on this fuse panel correctly, and they have a wire coming out of there running over, so that prevents putting the cover on there correctly, everything's going to turn green and corrode. These panels fail just because they can, and aggravating it by not having this cover on there. This is the powertrain relay right here. Let's see what it looks like. It doesn't look too bad. Now let's turn the key on and see if that relay is turning on. Sorry for the noise. So I got power on pin 30 or 87, but the relay's not being energized. Let's try the control side of the relay. Power on the control side, but it's not being turned on. I can turn it on with the test light. So I'm going to look at the schematic and see where this comes from. I'm pretty sure it's going to need this fuse panel. So the PCM has two relays involved. There's a powertrain relay, which I just tested. It's not being energized. And there's a run crank relay. The run crank relay is controlled by the BCM. So let's move that jumper over to the run crank relay. So the run crank relay is this one down here, which is this one right here. Let's pull this one out and have a look at it. Doesn't look bad. So that relay is being energized. Now I swapped it. See if I plug it in. But I don't hear this other relay being energized. What's the one beside it? Starter relay. And rear defogger relay. Let's swap with the rear defogger relay. Alright, well, there's power coming out of this run crank relay on both 30 and 87. So let's see where that goes now. So that goes to fuse 58 and then off to, oh, I can't scroll with that screen. Oh well, let's check that fuse. So it's actually fuse 56, which is this one down here. It's a 15 amp or a 10 amp fuse. 56 is 15 amp. So I'll put the relay back in, and that's this fuse right here. And we can see we got power on both sides of the fuse, but I'm going to pull that fuse out and have a look at the legs on the fuse. So the legs on the fuse look good. I pulled it out. That's this 15 amp right here. I'm still concerned that this fuse panel is the cause of the problem, but so the run crank relay is turning on, but this PCM powertrain relay is not turning on. Let's see how that's controlled. So the powertrain relay is ground side controlled by circuit 5991 by the ECM, and it's not doing that, so we might be missing. This is fuse 56. We got that power at least to the fuse. Let's check the ECMD fuse, which is fuse 13 by the looks of it, 13 or 18. No, it's 13. Injector B, 20 amp. So as you can see, there's no power on either side of that fuse. No power to that fuse either. No power to that one, no power to that one. All of these fuses, oh, that one's live. What current? What is that fuse? That one's live. That one's live. Oh, it is just oxidized. So let's pull this fuse out. So as you can see, that power feeds pin 30 of the run crank relay, which I had, and pin 30 of the powertrain relay, which I had, but there's no power at this pin 30 or ECM battery fuse 18 or 13. That's 10 amps. And in here it's called injector B, 20 amp. 18 is O2 sensor. Well, I think I'm going to stop because I got no power at that fuse, and that's internal to the fuse panel, and it's obviously corroded. I've also got no power to fuse 4, but I don't know if that's key switch, but it's ignition. It says ECM ignition. So I'm going to get a fuse panel for this thing and swap it out. So here's the deal. Called the dealer in Thunder Bay here. They're on back order, minimum 2 weeks away, and nothing available locally. I did find a used one. The local used car recycling yard has a couple that they brought in from out west, so hopefully that they're in better shape than this one. So we're going to put this one on hold for now and move on to the other truck, which is a Ford that thinks it's being stolen. So this thing is on back order from GM, 2 to 3 weeks, not available. So I got a couple of used ones. Now you have to watch because there's a couple varieties according to the, notice the 3 terminals up here. So you got to make sure you get the right one, because this one here has only 2 terminals in the top corner there. Make sure that you've got the correct pin out, and then we're going to make sure all the fuses are in place. Now sometimes these connectors pull out of the plastic when you go to pull this out, so you got to reinstall them. I've used diagnostic spray to clean the terminals, and I put dielectric grease on the terminals, and now we're going to put it back in. So there's a fuse panel installed, the used one, but I found out just now that they put a used ECM in this thing, and I'm not sure if they have the original one, so it likely will not start because of security now. First and foremost, I'm going to pay attention to see if the check engine light comes on. And it does, see it under the oil pressure light. But it still doesn't crank, likely because of security now. So just compare all of the fuses and make sure all the fuses and relays are in the same place. This one's missing that fuse, which is actually for a windshield washer heater, so It did have a 60 amp maxi fuse in that place, but I don't think this truck has that, so we're not going to bother putting that in there. So we got communication with the ECM now. Wrong VIN number. It's out of a 4.8 liter engine. The key went off. So this is the incorrect VIN in there. It's definitely a used computer and they can't find the old one. So hopefully it's the right service part and we can flash program it and do the passive anti-theft relearn.